It says, son, time is all the lock you need.
Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome back to Beyond Your Radio. It's Unknown Sundays. It's time to talk about a band, an artist, or something in the music multiverse that might be relatively unknown to some or most that our watchers, collectors, and listeners here might be interested in, a rabbit hole to go down, so to speak. Either present, past. This is quite an informative part of our weekly sessions. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is an extension of the article section on beyondyourradio.com. Yes, I wrote this about this particular band and this week with a lot of links and connections pieces there. So if you want, it's all there. No AI, just me, myself, and I. If you're not subscribed and you're looking for interesting connections, rabbit holes, music to discover, explore, or, wow, I forgot about that band, this is the place. So check us out and connect with us either one way or another, either by clicking the subscribe button or by the bell, whatever you choose, or both. Please feel free always to leave a comment. I do respond to all. I love the music banter. Of course, if you like what you like, then click the like button. Thumbs up, right? So the 1990s had some iconic bands and influences and influxes of music genres that churned the waters of types and styles, as well as brought about banking on changes and trying to control the fads. There were nostalgic songs and that just happened over bands themselves. It's something that every generational year of music seems to experience to one degree or another, but it just felt like the 90s were attacked on all sides, music experiences way beyond the norm. With the arrival of grunge, Nirvana, the Seattle scene, the electronica emergence that filtered even farther into trip hop as well, and then the post-grunge scene, alternative rock, that yielded the biggest band of the modern era. And I won't say their name because, you'll get frustrated. But that's the truth of the record sales business, right? This is where I decided to look at an interesting rock post-grunge-like band that I technically had a short radio shelf life, but in actuality did a fair job of making some extremely thought-provoking and engaging vocal pressure that should have been sort of more so like that band, Creed. There, I said it. Hopefully we'll, get on with it. Why? Well, I will explain as we move along, but Seven Mary 3 had a more interesting song range, audience reach demographically, with a more Midwestern rock placement that had more arrangement to them, really, over Creed. This is that holler rock, right? Band. It came from Virginia, but they went through Orlando, Florida. This is Seven Mary 3 on Unknown Sundays 2026. Too many in the era that experienced the variety of genre explosions, minor and or major, during the 1990s into even the early 2000s. There are plenty of labels of one-hit wonders to that variety. The unfortunate part of this article is that Seven Mary 3's Cumbersome apparently falls into that label during the holler rock era of the post-grunge framework.
And her nakedness is not an invitation to her bed at night. She sleeps that way all the time. And he's wanting just to say, would you listen up and give half a chance to this young man? And she's wanting just to say, can you break down all the barrier walled up around me? And the worst thing he can do is leave when she tells him to. Then they're equally alone.
I can certainly hear that in the vocal presence of Jason Ross in almost a linear comparison to that of Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam. As a matter of fact, there's many that touted that they were just copying Pearl Jam. Whether that's true or not, it's a decent copy. We all know how it went for Pearl Jam, but what about this also honest, raw like vibrato song, vocal driven band, four-piece that had their, you know, sound. They even self-produced. They're very headstrong shot, getting noticed far from the hometown of Williamsburg, Virginia, into Florida, which is why they wound up there, because they followed that love of their music by that radio station all the way to Florida with Tom Morris and Jim Morris, where they recorded and re-recorded what would be their debut, which was Churn. But really, their magical debut on the record label of Mammoth Atlantic was American Standard, which is just basically Churn produced better by the band themselves with Morris. They sold and pressed those. They pressed those 5,000. They sold those 5,000 copies, much like another band that did so just a few years prior to them, out of Georgia, and that would be Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid by Collective Soul, that doubled that. They pressed 10,000 copies of that record before anyone ever touched them with a record deal. You get to make your next album in a professional recording studio. That's the dream, all right, of an artist. I mean, the tour of the fans and the David Letterman appearance, other appearances that they made. I mean, Cumbersome was a hit, was a #1 Billboard hit, and they also had a little more success, not as much with The Water's Edge. So they get to do this, and what do? They go to Daniel Lanois' studio in New Orleans. Now, Daniel Lanois himself does not produce the record, but you feel that the self-indulgence of this is that arrival, right? And that's Rock Crown. And in all fairness, there are some very deeper moments on this record, but they might be a bit overshadowed by the overselling of vocality on a few tracks. But this is 7 Mary 3. I'm okay with it, but it is my guess that the distance between the release and the recording put the band out of taste and flavor. Things were changing so fast in the 90s. It's really too bad, because it's a sophomore moment, actually, when it comes down to it. It's a really good sophomore record. American Standard is more the real true start. So the song People Like New actually showcased another side of the band and could have been that 1995-96 expansion and garnered like new attachments of listeners that were sick of the holler kind of thing. And even that dissipates over time with 7 Mary 3. Instead, Mammoth parts ways with Atlantic Records, and then there's a shelving because Atlantic doesn't really want to, I don't know, it doesn't seem like they wanted to push 7 Mary 3 apparently after the first record. Because of that, I don't know, maybe there's a rights thing, who knows. So instead, Mammoth is gone. Enough said, right? A familiar story where the album doesn't come out for 2 years, and you're kind of lost. Make Up Your Mind was another great difference in the kind of track, showcasing a less of that holler again and more melody and catchiness that's not in the grunge setting. I'm not one to believe in the window of overall time availability for creativeness, right? In songwriting, musicality, or lyrically. What I do believe in is the time you have to make your peace with the existence of that longevity, and however it's going to be. You make it your life, or you make it your way of life, and which is the greatest pivot or excommunication from the business that usually happens. You might be able to make it your life, but there are going to be extreme decisions and consequences to be made. Even with huge success comes that slave to the grind maybe happens, obviously. This is especially monetarily true for those bands, artists that have just some or even no success. Pay the bills, maybe not. But what it is the music that you can stay close to. And there's no question that Jason Ross and some of the 7 Mary 3 crew were able to find pivotal moments. And they kind of made more albums than Creed. So they were able to hang in long enough, basically. Even though Jason Pollock's resignation as lead guitar happens just after Orange Avenue in 1998, which probably got a bit more critical acclaim than the prior records, which, breaking it down, the trend, it's it's where they would have been and where the music was, which was very truthful, coming from the band since they started. These albums progressed. The knowledge base, the way they recorded, the way they traveled and toured, these are really good tracks, but just not in the wheelhouse of what was necessary at the time. And you can see so many great writing similarities to the band that stayed relevant. They're going on in these records, but the timing, the exposure was meant for others. If you think about Album Wars 1997, which is forthcoming here when I record this, you've got Radiohead's brilliant OK Computer, which is one of the new classics of the entire record catalog and industry. Notorious B.I.G. is in there. Foo Fighters' second record, Bjork, Prodigy, Mariah Carey's Butterfly for a pop. You're not getting on radio with that thing. I think the closest band to them at that time might have been, when you consider the 100 best albums of that year, might have been Fleetwood Mac's The Dance, and there's a long-standing, and the Third Eye Blind maybe. Incredible what happens in 5 years, right? Even as the band morphs, evolves, utilizing keys, piano. Orange Ave even has a burn that feels like the songwriting sometimes of a Matchbox 20. Just check out Each Little Mystery, and you'll know what I mean.
She says there's motivation tucked into the crease between the seats. I look through the box for cigarettes, maps, and keys. There's so much room in here you can put your feet straight out the dash. She turns the radio on and pulls me close to hear me laugh. Each little mystery is safe in your heart. You've gotta wonder. It's moving on the best that you can do. Need to have a little conversation to find the truth behind the questions that are haunting you.
I mean, it's okay. No dice. Yes, it happens. It's probably happened to most of us in any and all professions. We become aware of the window closing, the element of changing around us, where the importance of life worth living has to be or can be. Jason Ross is in the industry, but in a place completely in a comfort and line of where it is and the time of the business has afforded him. The creativity to have songwriting and move that into marketing and management and touring an event. He focuses on being there for those bands and events that are forthcoming, the building and truly finding a musical peace and enjoyment from the overall jazz of just digging music in general and other people's creativity in the sound, lyrics, and concepts. He is a consultant, if you will, agency professional that knows how not to work the way, because he was neck deep in it, creating, living in a very brief time frame in a very tumultuous business. He was lucky to see it from its start of being the heyday. Well, not being the start of the heyday, but being a heyday and then moving to digital. So he's got a well-rounded audio presence and knowledge. You got to manage your expectations and make relationships in these days and understand how your overall craft can possibly save you and make you better or give you longevity in that which you love. And that's inspirationally true. And I appreciate Seven Mary 3 for their musical contribution catalog, as well as Jason Ross's storytelling and his love of music and the bandmates. Jason Pollock had a 5-year hiatus in writing and playing, but he found it again in the Pollocks, who have released catchy, simple records, such as 2023's Rock House, which has this cool kickoff track called Kiss a Bullet. It's not as well produced, but check it out. They tour regionally, it seems, in the Carolina region, but it sounds like a band that's their art form. They're having a lot of connectivity vibe, playing these audiences that are relatively small compared to what Seven Mary 3 was doing back at the beginning. And this is all coming right. And that love of music and creativity that he returned to. Casey Daniel was a session bassist, probably an unappreciated badass, technically, if you listen to what he plays, except for those finding out when he's in the studio. So, and Giddy, he was drumming. He did that until 2006's um, Day and Night Driving, which actually was co-produced by Brian Paulson, who has worked with some of those that are kind of closely related to what you would think of Seven Mary Three. You had Slint. He did Cracker, Super Chunk. He's also done Beck and oddities like Squirrel Nut Zippers. But and you can hear his ear on this final record, Day and Night Driving. I was in the exit of college time when American Standard kind of hit. I was I had those first three albums right here. I this is the big one, right? And then came Rock Crown and then Orange Ave. But in doing all this, do I go back and get churn? Well, I kind of agree with the band that they wanted to reproduce it. They didn't want to just churn it out again. The same thing. I think that was smart. I really had not heard much since this Orange record, really, and that, like, this dislocation I passed on so many times in the used bin, even though the price was fine, just because I thought, well, this is, am I tired of this yet, or what other things I was interested in? But when I saw this just recently, about a month or so ago, I picked it up, and this reminded me to write this article and do this. So that's how that all came to kind of come around again. The album that's interesting here is Jason Ross does an acoustic version of the final record, well, sort of like his own edits and demos or whatever, called JR colon Night Driving Songs. And that one's also got this, it kicks off with Willow, where it's just so well recorded. It's almost like you're inside the guitar. So if you're interested, check that out. Cool stuff there to explore, should you choose to choose the rabbit holes like I do. Seven Mary Three on Unknown Sundays 2026. One of those maybe explored treasures of the mid-90s post-grunge fallout that you may not have completely experienced like they were hoping you would have and tried to have you. But my, how they tried, and how we all in that time were lucky to remember it and have a catalog to listen back to in all kinds of fabulous versions. Seven Mary Three albums. Churn in 1994 kicked it off. That's their own production. And I don't know, I think I did that on Record Store Day. They released it. I don't know which Record Store Day time it was. American Standard, 1995. I have that record. Rock Crown, 1997. Yes, I have that record. Orange Ave, 1998. I have that record. And then they followed that one up with The Economy of Sound in 2001. I don't have that record. And then Dislocation, 2004. I have that. And they finished in 2008 with Day and Night Driving, which I believe they probably did a lot of work in 2006 before the departure of the drummer. Jason Ross, yes, just that one Night Driving songs take, but he, again, has a career in music. And then, of course, the Pollux, who Johnny Sunshine and the Rainbows started their journey in 2008, which is the same as Day and Night Driving came out. And then they kind of had like a B-side in 2023, Set and Settings in 2023, and then Rock House, which I talked about with that one track in 2023. All really good rockin' little numbers, and I think they're having a good time. Join me next week for another Unknown Sundays 2026. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, as well as now TikTok. We're all about the articles, videos, and podcasts coming soon. Albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. So go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. As always, thank you for watching. Happy listening.